Thank you, Tyler, for that introduction. That introduction cost me about $1,500 to get him to say that. So I appreciate all that Tyler does, and I'm actually thrilled to be with you today. I love being here at Southern Utah University. It has been just a delight to be able to teach here this past year. I'm super excited to be involved with the MBA program. I was mentioning to a couple of students on the front row, this is like being back in some of my old classes because they're back here. So if you've heard my stories before, just keep laughing at the funny parts. So I currently am involved in a few startup companies, I'll just show you a little bit of some of the companies I'm involved with today. I brought giveaways. How many of you have a dog or a cat of some, or a pet of some kind? Great. How many have dogs? Okay, cats, birds. Okay, got a couple of birds. Fish? Fish? Oh yes, Jamie, way to go. Fish. And then anything else that's a pet? Small furry animals, things like that? Got a son. I don't know that that counts, Spencer, but I guess you have to feed them and clean their room. But I'm involved in a couple companies now, less as an entrepreneur and starting them up, more involved in these companies as an investor and as a governance on board of directors. So just a few of the companies I'm involved with. If you do have a dog or a cat, companies that I invest in and that I'm on the board of, we make dog and cat stuff. So really cool if you have, if you like some biscuits or if you like some jerky or dog food or cat food, when we get done, please make this pile of fabulous products disappear, okay? So I would appreciate that. But anyways, it's a lot of fun to be still involved in the pet industry. As you saw here, this group was pretty representative. A lot of people in the United States own pets. And the funny story about my wife and I, we're not big pet people, or at least I should say we were not big pet people until I started working for PetSmart. And when I started working for PetSmart, the head of HR sat down with me and said, well, Ken, of course you've got a dog, right? And I said, well, actually, I don't. I've been traveling, I'm not home very much. And she said, well, you've got a cat then, right? And I said, Carol, to be honest, my wife's allergic to dogs and cats. And I was kind of worried at that point that my employment was going to end on my first day. But no fear, the head of HR, Carol, said, oh, that's okay. Have you ever considered bearded dragons? True story. Bearded dragons, if you don't know, are these lizards. They grow about this big, and they're wonderful pets, if you like that sort of thing. My wife, Diana, I know would not like that sort of thing. And so in that moment, on my first day of employment at PetSmart, we became fish parents. And ever since, we have had fish in the Hall household. So we are part of this small group down here that has fish in the United States. But a lot of people have pets. Matter of fact, if you look, and this is last year's information, there are more dogs and more cats in the United States than there are actually children. So pets are a big business. And one of the things that's very interesting about pets, and especially with people that are, I will call them pet parents today. You might know them as pet owners, but I call them pet parents. So things with pet parents today, they treat their pets like their children. They want the best clothes for their pets, the best education for their pets. They want their pets to have the best medical care. And because of that, working at PetSmart was a wonderful, wonderful time and opportunity. And so as we talk today, I've kind of tried to figure out what would be meaningful to share with you. And I've come up with 5 lessons that I've learned as a former pet trainer. And I call it Confessions of a Former Pet Trainer. 5 lessons I've learned from the dogs. And these 5 things are what we're going to talk about today. Rolling over, fetch, potty training, stay and come. But hopefully it will help you get some insight, not just into the pet world, which is its own fascinating little industry, but also into maybe some business principles that might be helpful for you as you consider starting or running your own businesses. So we'll start with roll over. And I want to share just a few headlines from the news about PetSmart. The examples I'll use today are from PetSmart. So this comes from 1993. PetSmart, the Phoenix-based retailer of pet supplies that sold the public 7.2 million shares in July at $18. The stock has bounced up 40% the first day of trading, now hovers around 36, stunning multiple 200 times 1993 earnings. 1994, stock is trading what seems like an astronomical high PE of 70 times earnings. That's from Forbes. 1995 from Fortune, the stock recently sold at $31 a share, 40 times earnings. That's high, but so is the company's growth rate, which should exceed 50% in 1997. And then finally from 1996 from Barron's, a combination of rapid acquisition and high internal growth have made the company a Wall Street star. So this is what the stock of PetSmart looked like from 1993 when it went public until 1996. Now I have 3 questions for you. Based on what I've just shared with you in this chart, what do you think drove the success? This is the participation part, okay? What do you think? Yes?
Declining birth rates in America.
Yeah, declining birth rates, people treating their pets as children. Excellent. What else do you think drove the success? Yes, I'm sorry, missed you.
No, it's okay. I think that also the fact that they could think about the animals that are out on the streets that don't have homes, and they want to give those animals homes, so they try to get people to be like, hey, this is a homeless animal. Come buy them. They need home and love.
Absolutely. So tying in to the human need of people wanting to care for not just children, but care for animals that don't have homes. Great answer. Lots of drivers drove the success. What can we tell about this management team, do you think? I'm sorry, what did you say?
It's probably really good.
They're really good. What else can we tell about them? They're probably pretty rich by this point, right? Right? The stock goes up like that. This must be the world's most amazing management team. Those headlines, how the growth is going, the stock, I mean, that's not even just a hockey stick. That's like a rocket ship, right? Okay. We're going to pause here, and we're going to move on from 1996 to about 2000. Okay? More headlines for you. This one comes from the Wall Street Journal. Until recently, that's not a good way to start a headline. Until recently, PetSmart had been Wall Street's favorite pet supply category killer. 2 weeks ago, PetSmart stumbled. The stock fell. This now comes from Barron's, 1997. Conversations with top management have led us to sharply reduce our fiscal earnings per share estimates. Now, you all are going to go run very successful businesses. Just a secret for you, a word of advice. When you talk with investors, your stock price should go up. When investors talk with you and they walk away saying, that's not a good conversation, and your stock goes down, that's generally bad. So this was not a good thing. PetSmart stock tumbled. This is from 1998 Wall Street Journal. After it said that it expects fiscal second quarter results of earnings between 0 and a loss of 2 cents a share. And then finally, this is the stock chart. Same stock. Now we're in the middle of 2000. 3 questions for you. Point that way. What drove this failure? Okay. Yes, Dakota.
Is it possible that they tried to grow too fast?
May have tried to go too fast. They actually did. Okay. What do you think about this management team? What can we tell about the management team? By the way, it's the same team. Are they superstars like they were before? What did you say about the team already? They're great. Now what do you say? Not too good. Okay. Yes.
Maybe they didn't adapt to changes in the market.
Exactly. So what happened with PetSmart at this time, they grew. They thought they were amazing. They were the world's greatest gift to the pet industry and to business. And they grew their company. They grew so fast that they didn't have the systems to be able to support that growth. And so all of a sudden, they're opening stores, but they can't get product on the shelf. Customers are walking into the stores and they're saying, this is disappointing, and they're not coming back. And so they tried to grow too fast. The interesting thing is, the management team was the same. So as you think about that, roll over, know when to change. Key business implication. Things do change. While the PetSmart team, management team at that time, thought everything was golden and wonderful, their customer was changing, their dynamics within the company were changing, and they thought because we're so amazing, we're so wonderful, we can do everything, that all of a sudden, when things changed, they kept doing the same things and it didn't work. One thing that's critically important, especially as you go and start your own companies and run your own business, you need to get good, honest, objective information. One of the problems with the PetSmart team, leadership team at this time, everyone was telling them that they were wonderful. The industry was changing, something was changing, but they weren't getting that critical information of what's going on with their customers and what was happening in their stores. One of the things that you will find as you get more senior in a company or in an organization, people will begin to tell you just the good news. I don't want to tell the boss what's going on. I don't want to tell them the bad news. And so if you don't really go and seek for good, honest, open information, what you find out is that your team will tell you everything is fine until one day you wake up and find out that your company is out of business or you're out of a job and it's not so fine. So you've got to get a really good, honest information, critical if you want to change. All right. There we go. The next thing you need to do, Jim Collins talks in his book, Good to Great, about brutal facts. You need to go find out what is the honest, brutal facts that are going on within your organization and not be scared by them. PetSmart's management at this time could have identified that product wasn't getting on the shelf, that customers were disappointed. But instead, they didn't want to hear that news and they just kept building stores. Find out what's really going on, and then you've got to have the courage to change. Sometimes it is so hard to walk away from something that has been so successful in the past. But I will promise you, if you do not have the courage to change, somebody else will come in and they will make the change for you. So business implications of rolling over, knowing when to change. On a personal side, there's also an implication of rolling over, knowing when to change. Troy Hall is my father. He graduated with an undergraduate degree in 1969, went to work for Xerox in Rochester, New York, and worked there for 30 years and retired. One company, one location, one career. How many of you think that that's going to be your experience? I've got a total of 0 hands, right? This is my experience. A little different than my dad's. I started out making gasoline in a big oil refinery. Then I'm making television commercials for a $5 and $6 billion retailer. All of a sudden after that, I'm investing in startups trying to figure out how do you make cat food and get people like Petco and PetSmart and Walmart to buy it. My career has taken many different changes. And for you, research currently would suggest that you're most likely going to have at least 7 different career changes during the lifetime of your career. And so what's important about those career changes is not waiting too long, but knowing when's the right time to change. I had a professor, his name was Jack Gabarro, one of my favorite beloved professors. But Jack Gabarro had a saying, and it made a huge impact on me. He said, now you're all going to go out, you're going to get jobs, you're going to do amazing things, you're actually going to start making money instead of paying the university money. That was something I really looked forward to, money coming in instead of going out. But what Jack Gabarro said, he said, once you start to make money, make it a priority to create for yourself, and he called it, excuse my language, a go-to-hell fund. And he said, you need to have money in the bank so when you find yourself in a situation that is not right, either the company is doing something that ethically you're not comfortable with, or maybe it's just a wrong fit, or maybe it's a wrong industry, or maybe the company's not good for you. Something is wrong. He said, you need to have the ability to go to the bank and know that you've set aside money that you can walk in one day and say, I'm out of here. I'm going to go do something different. You need to know and be ready to change when those times come for you that you need to change so that you don't get stuck in doing things. I will tell you, as soon as I had enough money to put aside a little bit in my own personal Go to Hell fund, I became a much better leader. I wasn't worried, what happens if I get fired? What happens if I leave? I had the confidence to know that I could be the kind of leader and employee I needed to be, and if I got fired or if I chose to leave, that I was going to be able to land on my feet until I could get another job. So, roll over, know when to change. The next topic, fetch. You got to make sure to chase the right thing. If you've ever had a dog and played fetch, it's amazing. You could throw something, they know exactly what you threw, and they bring it back to you. They don't go wander around and bring back random sticks or balls. They bring back the right thing. In business, you also need to know what to chase and make sure you're chasing the right thing. When I started at PetSmart at that very low point at the end of that chart in the summer of 2000 is when I first started getting involved with PetSmart. And when we walked in, we realized that the company was in a bad place. And we had to figure out, what are we going to do? How do we figure out where this company should go? Or in other words, what should we be chasing? We started off by spending a tremendous amount of time with customer research, trying to understand what did the pet parent, what did the customer want? And what we identified was that there was a very specific customer segment. We called her the pet enthusiast. This was a person whose pets were truly their family. Their four-legged children were just as important, and quite often sometimes even more important than their two-legged children. They wanted the best schools, the best clothes, the best of everything for this person. What we found out was that this pet enthusiast was not having her needs fully met. But we learned from our research that she wanted a shopping experience that was not only easy to shop, but was enriching, was fun, was meaningful. That things like knowledgeable and caring store associates were critical. If she walked in with a concern, with an issue, she wanted someone who could answer her question, not just say, the restroom's in the back corner around to the left. And she was also very interested in having products that were unique, that were different, and having great pet services. If you think about it for a second, getting your dog groomed. If your dog is really like your child, you're taking your dog to someone who has sharp scissors and who doesn't know your pet. You want to make sure that that person has a phenomenal relationship, that you can trust them. And it goes up even more so if we start talking about obedience training or about veterinary care. So we began to figure out, what do we need to chase? And we decided we needed to chase pet enthusiasts. Matter of fact, we had 3 target segments that we would call pet parents. And we knew that if we chased them, if we focused on them, that they made up 62% of all pet owners, but 74% of the profits. And if we really looked at trying to meet their needs, that not only could we grab a meaningful share of the business, but we could actually expand the potential market by offering products and services that were currently not easily accessible in the industry. So when we looked at that, the problem was we came in and began to look at our stores, and this was the reality we faced in the summer of 2000. Does that look like an enriching and easy to shop experience? Not at all. And as we began to look at our different store environments, they all had this, it wasn't consistent with what our target customer wanted. When we talked about wanting to have knowledgeable associates and we actually did the research and looked in our stores, this is what we saw. Empty aisles with lots of stuff. No people. And then when we talked about pet services, we had a bulletin board where the local pet trainer or the local a mobile groomer could put up a flyer. So we knew what we wanted to chase, but what we saw was that reality wasn't matching what we wanted. We had a real strategic dissonance. It didn't make sense. What we offered was not what the customer wanted. And so we really began to question, are we chasing the right thing? So to do something about it, we said we've got to come up with a new corporate strategy. And we said we're going to make the whole company focus on something new. We're going to focus on total lifetime care, every pet, every parent, every time. We want to be the person who's going to help you take care of everything you need for the lifetime of your pet. And to do that, we came up with a threefold strategy. First, we had to delight that pet enthusiast customer. She had to feel like, I want to go to PetSmart because I can get dog food at the grocery store. And grocery stores are closer than PetSmart. She had to have an experience that was truly delightful. We had to figure out just the basic operations. How do you get product on the shelf? So when a customer comes in, it's there. And finally, we knew that if we were really going to meet her needs, we had to grow our pet services businesses. Now, one of the fun things about doing strategy and also being involved in marketing is that you can do cool things like this, where you say, this is our new strategy, and magically, it says dog. I just love marketing. So what we did is we said, all right, if we're going to really match and chase the right customer, we've got to redesign our store. So we began to redesign the whole store. We did tremendous research with our pet enthusiast target customer. One of the basic things that we did is we organized the store by pet. Previously, it had been organized by product, so all the food was in one section. If you needed cat food, dog food, fish food, it was all in one section. But customers don't shop that way. For some reason, cat customers don't buy a lot of dog food. So instead, we reorganized the store by pet. So the cat toys and the cat litter and the cat food were all in a cat section. And just little things like that that made the store easier to shop, that trained our associates and highlighted our services businesses. This is what the store looked like after we did that store model redesign. It became much easier to shop, and you can see, much easier to see our services businesses, our training, our veterinary services, our grooming, as well as being organized by pet. We also were able to put out much bigger displays that made it easier to shop. And then finally, to help with our associates in training, we completely redid our signage so that it was informational, so a customer could walk in and a store associate could say, oh, how do I choose what kind of rawhide or what kind of chews for my dog? Well, choose wisely. Do you want natural? Do you want it to remove plaque and tartar? We organized the store around solutions for the pet parent. The other thing we did is we trained our store associates so that they could better able to answer questions and to provide solutions. We made product that was unique, and this was super fun. So you could come in and instead of just saying, we're going to sell a bag of dog food, we began to look at how do we make things like dog beds fit into the decor of our pet enthusiasts in our house. And so we just had a lot of fun as we went through designing products that really matched our pet enthusiast customer. Finally, we really focused on growing our services business as well, training, grooming, obedience training, and veterinary care. But when we got to the end, we began to question, we're chasing, but are we really getting the credit that we need from trying to do this business strategy? And it brought up the basic question that always we came back to internally, but also with our name. And as we looked at our logo, we had the question, which are we? Are we PetSmart? Are we a big store with lots of stuff? Or are we PetSmart, providing solutions, providing care, providing lifetime needs for your pet? And very clearly we said strategically, we have to be PetSmart. And so one of the things that we did is we redesigned our logo and then went through and every single store changed to make sure our customers understood that it was PetSmart. No longer were we just the best place of supplies, but trying to truly provide lifetime care for our pets. So a couple implications from business, from this example of make sure you chase the right thing. If you don't decide where you're going, any path is going to do. You're starting a business, you're running a business. If you don't have a clear vision of what you're trying to accomplish, where you're going to go, it really doesn't matter how you go, how you're going to get there. You've got to start off by figuring out what's most important. Second, base your strategy on facts. Be data-driven in your decisions. If there is one thing that I've seen with more companies failing, it's because they base their strategy on fiction. They say, we think this is what it means, we think this is what it is. Go out, get the research, understand truly what does your target customer want. Once you decide what you're going to chase, it may mean you have to change things. And chances are you may need to change a lot of things. But it's critical to align your whole business to that strategy if you really want to make it work. And then finally, when you think about strategy, it's about the allocation of scarce resources. The hardest decision in strategy is not deciding what to do. There's always lots of great ideas. The hardest part about strategy is figuring out what you're not going to do, who you're not going to please, and what businesses you're not going to be in. On a personal implications level, this is a statement I just love. Work without vision is drudgery. Vision without work is dreaming, but work coupled with vision is destiny. When you think about running your businesses and starting your businesses, figure out what that vision is and then work hard towards it. If you don't have a vision, you're never going to get any place. But if you just have a vision and you don't work, it's never going to fit. Make sure you can find ways of doing this. This quote here on good, better, and best, when we consider various choices, we should remember that it's not enough to do something good. Instead, other choices are better and still others are best. Sometimes we have to forego good things in order to choose those that are better and best. Nowhere is this more evident than in your personal life as well as in your business life. There's always lots of good things to do. We need to figure out what is most important and chase the right things. So potty training, learning from your mistakes. How many of you have ever had a puppy? Is it better once the puppy is potty trained or before they're potty trained? Always better after. In business, it's very similar. You're going to make mistakes, learn from them, okay? We decided that we were going to change the stores. We were going to redesign them, focus on pet enthusiasts, be pet smart and not pet mart. The problem was we had 500 stores in our old prototype that were 26,000 square feet. In our current prototype, we determined we only needed 19. We had an extra 7,000 square feet that we didn't need in our stores. It did no good to put product in them because we already had all the product that we carried. All we were doing was paying rent. And so we had to figure out, what do we do with all this extra space? We've got a mistake. How do we handle it? What we realized, again, going back to who we're chasing, there were certain areas that we were meeting the needs of the pet enthusiasts, but there were certain areas where we were not. And we identified that there wasn't a convenient way for people to board their dogs and cats. I want a pet, but every time I go out of town, it's a hassle. How do I take care of that? So we identified an opportunity, and we decided we could solve this problem with a pets hotel. So now let me introduce you to Bailey. We'll give you a short interview.
My mom's going on vacation and so am I. I'm staying at Pet's Hotel at our local PetSmart store. My friend Coco is checking in for doggy day camp at the Curbside Ballet. Hey Coco! I love my crew at Pet's Hotel. They're safety certified and always have a local vet on call. Hi Maria. Maria checks me out before I check in to make sure I'm healthy. Dave takes my bed from home to my room. Check-in is a breeze, because Mom always brings my vaccination certificates. Mom got me an upgrade from a standard room to a suite. Sweet! My man Dave, what's up? Dave always remembers my name. And Mom's! noises. My cat friend Emily says she can't smell or hear us dogs, so everyone feels safe. I see yellow tags. That means first time guests. You're in good hands, ladies. Here's my suite. Feels just like home. Dave, is it playtime yet? Is it? Mom signed me up for a package with Doggy Day Camp. This is Cheyenne. She makes sure day camp is fun and safe. We exercise, make friends, play games, and oh, bubbles! Bubblicious!
So here's a problem we faced. Our stores are too big, we're paying rent, and we're not making any money on it. Magically, the Pets Hotel is about 5,000 to 7,000 square feet, right? One thing that we learned, half the people that used the Pets Hotel had never ever used a boarding facility before. So not only were we gathering greater competitive market share, but we were expanding the boarding market to people that had never used it before. 80% rated us better as the competition. A whole 97% said that our offering was as good as or better than the competition. All from a mistake of having stores that were too big. Became a key differentiator for PetSmart. So some business implications. Most mistakes won't kill your business. You need to be able to take risks. You need to try things. You need to do things. And as long as you're willing to learn from them and not repeat them, most mistakes won't kill your business. The second thing, sometimes disadvantages can actually become competitive advantages. Our competition, be it grocery stores or Walmart or Petco, could not build Pets Hotels in their stores because their stores were either the right size or too small. We just happen to have this whole portfolio with extra size stores. And then finally, most turnarounds, and I'll also venture out to say most startups fail. So you want to decide carefully what to do. And then once you make a decision, you need to execute violently. Decide, make sure you're doing the right thing, but once you decide, you've got to go. So make sure you know when to change, make sure you're chasing the right thing. But once you've decided what to do, jump in, execute violently. Now on a personal implication level, you're going to make mistakes in your career. Now that may be a surprise. And for many of you, it will be something new. You're the talented ones. You're the ones that went to college. You're the ones getting business degrees. You're the smart ones that have always done well. Some point in your career, you're going to run into a wall. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to turn left when you should have turned right. And what you want to remember in that moment, don't give up, but learn from that mistake. The example of Abraham Lincoln. He ran for state legislature. He ran for Congress. He ran for the Senate a couple of times. He lost. Thank goodness for this country. He kept trying and he kept learning. So, potty training. Now, stay. There are times when you've also got to know when not to move. In your careers, there's always going to be competing priorities. There's always going to be times that are difficult. There'll be times in your career where the pressure is intense and the consequences of failure are severe. Sometimes when we're put into those very intense crucibles, there will be people who will come up to you and say, you know what? Just cut the corner a little bit. Just look away, turn a blind eye. It's okay, just bend the rules this one time. You have to know when not to move. And in those times when you are pressured to bend the rules, to make that one exception, those are the times that you need to truly stay the most. You must always make sure that you're doing what's right. I'll share a story with you that in my career, probably, I'll never forget this. It was very impactful to me. It was the spring of 2007, late spring, and it's a Friday afternoon because bad things always happen on a Friday afternoon. In this case, it really was. There was a big blizzard that had started in the northeast, and our stores were having to shut down early because of the amount of snow from this blizzard. I get a phone call. Our headquarters is in Phoenix. I get a phone call. It's one of our large suppliers of dog and cat food. He's on the phone. Ken, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I don't know what's going on, but we've started to get reports that there are some dogs and cats that are starting to get sick. We don't know why. Someone has told us that they think there might have even been a cat that has died. We have no idea what's going on. All I can tell you, it seems most of these pet owners, most of these pets have fed this kind of canned cat or dog food. I'll keep you posted, Ken. I talked to my boss, the CEO. I said, we've got an issue where there seems to be something going on, but we don't know. The question we had was, what do we do about it? Quickly, just calculating the sales from this brand of wet dog and cat food, it was about $100 million of sales that were on risk. We could pull it from the shelf. Pulling it meant we would lose the $100 million. It meant that part of my merchandising team would lose their bonuses. Because clearly, taking a hit to the product of that size would put people out of the bonus range. What do? Do you wait and see? It's just a phone call. And by the way, it's snowing in the Northeast. We've already closed some stores. The associates have already gone home. If we want to pull it from off the shelf, we're going to have to figure out how we get them back to the stores and whatnot. Fortunately for me, my boss, the CEO, a guy named Phil Francis, was amazing. I said, Phil, I'm not comfortable. I think we need to pull the product. Well, let's wait, come back, talk to me in half an hour. I got another phone call. A different vendor. We're not sure what's going on, Ken. We're starting to get reports. I went to Phil, let's pull it. He said, great, let's do it. We pulled product off stores in all, that time 1,250 stores. We put $100 million of business in the back room. And we put up signs that said, this product is temporarily not for sale. We didn't know why. Fast forward, I ended up over the next couple of weeks getting calls from 3 or 4 other vendors. Everyone was having problems with food that was wet canned food that had a gravy in it. What we began after months, we finally figured out and resolved the issue. These products all used a wheat gluten as a thickener for the gravy that was in the canned dog and cat food. For some reason, there were some very enterprising people who found out that if you ground up plastic, a kind of plastic called melamine, and you mixed it in with wheat gluten, when they tested it to see the protein content of that wheat gluten, the protein content went up. They made more money by mixing in ground up off-spec plastic into wheat gluten. The only problem was, when you looked at this under a very powerful microscope, that ground up plastic had sharp edges and would rip and shred the kidneys of any pet that ate it. Fortunately, we figured that out and were able to resolve it. There is opportunities in business to do good things. At PetSmart, we have a PetSmart charity where we literally will find homes for over 1,000 homeless pets a day. We provide spay and neuter clinics to help prevent the increase of homeless pets. We have things called our emergency relief wagon, where we send large trucks to relief areas and are able to help out people, like just recently in Florence, going and helping rescue pets that are in need. There's a lot of good you can do. So know when not to move. In business, customers remember and trust companies that act with integrity, especially during a crisis. That doing what's right is always good business, and quite often doing good can also be good for business. On a personal level, I always remember what I've heard described as the sunshine rule. Make sure that everything you're doing, you'd be comfortable doing, even if you were standing out in the bright sunshine of day. If your face is going to be on the cover of the Wall Street Journal someday, you want it to be there for doing good things, not there because you're going to jail. So if you're taking notes, write this down. Stay out of jail, okay? Do good things. The former dean of the Harvard Business School, Kim Clark, said this: as the world gets more complex and the gray areas more prevalent, we need to strengthen individual integrity. Know when not to move, know when to stay. The last thing I'll just share as I close is you want to recognize your master's voice. In business, there are always lots and lots of masters, customers, employees, stakeholders, community organizations. There are tremendous people who want and help provide you direction. And you can't please everyone. For PetSmart, we decided it was the pet enthusiast. She was who we wanted to please. She was who we wanted to recognize. You've got to figure out who are you going to listen to, what makes the most difference to you. And then finally, on a personal level, you're going to spend a lot of your life working. And you want to decide why. Why are you doing this? Are you working to live? Or are you ending up living just to go to work? Again, Kim Clark from Harvard Business School had an opportunity to have a small meeting with him. And we asked him this question: what advice would you give us? And he said, beware of the lure of the inner circle. He said, so often you get into business and there's always another promotion. There's always a bigger office. There's always another trophy, another reward, another bonus. He said, sometimes we get caught up in that and we get this lure of we want to be on the inner circle, that we forget what matters most. And we end up chasing things that may not be the most important things to us. When I graduated with my MBA, Dean Clark spoke and he shared these two quotes. Dean Clark shared a quote from David McKay. He said, no other success can compensate for failure in the home. And then he also shared, remember, the most important work that you will ever do will be the work that you do within the walls of your own home. As you think about what's important to you, who are you going to listen to? Figure it out so that you can move forward and do those things that would matter most for you. So roll over, know when to change positions, fetch, chase the right things, potty training, learn from your mistakes, stay, know when not to move, and then recognize your master's voice. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. Hopefully, some of that will be helpful to you.
So Ken, thank you so much. That was just an outstanding combination of insights into PetSmart's trajectory. That was fascinating and such good life advice. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks, Tyler. Thank you. That's awesome.
So thanks for that's the Thunderbird Award in recognition of Ken's contribution to the entrepreneurship program. You got a minute to?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Any questions? Any things that I could answer? Yes.
You said that you guys had to research a lot about like the pet parent enthusiasts. How did you guys go about like finding that research and that kind of thing?
So how do we go about finding research on pet parents? Literally at that time, we did a lot of phone research. We did a lot of research where we actually would call people, ask them, do you have a pet? Yes. And then we'd say, can we talk to you for 5 minutes? And we spoke with literally tens of thousands of people. We had an immense database that we could then look at. And then we'd follow up with people. How much do you spend? And what kind of pet do you have? And what would you really want? And then we also had in the store data from customer shoppers. So we must have done millions, it seems like. We did dozens and dozens of focus groups. We'd bring people in, we'd find out, what do you like, what kind of pets, how much money do you spend? And then to be honest, because of that, we built a whole customer research function within my marketing group. And then just going on forward, we had ongoing customer research we did every year because things change and you had to know when to change. Great question. Other questions? Yes.
Okay, so in the beginning of the slide, when you had how many people had certain pets, like the dogs was the highest and the cats was the second, and then you had birds and you had smaller animals and fish. So on the second slide after that, it showed that there was more cats than dogs.
Yes.
So how did you, are you guys trying to figure out, like, how are you trying to get cats, since there's more of them, into family homes?
Sure, so the question was, even though that more households have dogs, there are more cats because people have multiple cats more than they have multiple dogs. One of the things and how we're trying to help resolve some of the homeless issues with them, get cats into homes. So PetSmart doesn't sell cats or dogs, but what we did is we built adoption facilities in our stores. So that if you walk into one of our stores, we actually have homeless cats that live in those stores that are able to be adopted out. And we have homeless shelter partners and animal welfare groups that come into the store every day to feed them, to take care of them, and then we help facilitate the adoption of those. We've adopted over 8 million pets at PetSmart Charities since PetSmart Charity was founded. Great question, thank you.
I have one more.
Yes?
Okay, so after the food incident, did you guys make the company that did that with the plastic pay you back for your revenue loss, or what did you do?
Great question. So with the pet food incident, what happened with the company that had the bad people putting ground up plastic and wheat gluten? So that was a manufacturer that was selling product from a different country. And they would sell their product into people that sold wheat gluten in the United States. People that sold wheat gluten in the United States would sell to dog and cat food manufacturers. The manufacturers would make the food and sell to us. And so while we never had to deal with that, we were 3 or 4 steps away from the people that did that. The U.S. government got involved, and there were some significant issues that took place because of that. So, thank you. Other questions? Yes, in the back.
I know you're still involved, of course, in this industry, and it's just been interesting over the years to watch parents and these pets and pampering these pets and how that has evolved over time. What does your more recent research show for the next generation of pet pampering? What kinds of crazy products and services are we going to see in the future to take care of these animals?
So what are you going to see in the future with pet products? To be honest, if you think about it for a second, the way to think about it to me is twofold. Think about millennials today. They're getting together and they're forming relationships, but they may not be having kids right away, or maybe not ever. And people are living longer. And so their kids, if they have them, are growing up and going away, but now I'm empty nesters much longer. And so in the US, and to be honest, throughout most of the first world, there are more people living together who want to take care of something, but don't have kids in the home. And so you're going to start to see a whole variety of things. A couple of the interesting ones I've seen pop up recently, there's been people trying to figure out pet jets. So I want my pet to come with me. I don't want to live, even though the Pets Hotel is gorgeous, I don't want to leave my dog in the Pets Hotel. I want him to come with me, but it's not a service animal. How do I get him from here to there? There are people trying to figure out how can you do a pet jet to transport pets from one side to the other of the country. Insurance policies. There are a whole variety of people now looking at health insurance for dogs, health insurance for cats. And then there's a whole level, if you go on the food side, a whole level of food now that instead of just being food, it's actually functional food. So these jerky are for those that have issues with hip and joint. These, if you've got problems with your immunity and defense, your dog keeps getting a cold or something. And this is hip and joint as well. I've got 2 hip and joints. Oh, here we go. You've got problems with skin and coat. Well, here's some, this has flaxseed, vitamin E, zinc, and biotin in that with these jerky here, salmon jerky, it's going to help you have good skin and coat. So what you're going to see is anything we do with people, we're working to try to figure out how we get that with pets. And so you'll see those same trends continue on as we go forward. Great question.
That's probably all the time we have for questions. If you want to follow up privately. Thank you so much, Ken.
Thanks, everyone.